Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited for this episode today. Before I introduce you to our guest, here is a quote just for this episode. Your target market and their demographics realistically need to be in alignment with your own beliefs and morals, or you may have trouble reaching out to them or keep them once others have entered the market. Michael Gerber, our guest today, a great friend of the Culture Matters podcast, supporter, early supporter of my journey trying to make culture matter. They not only started in business right out of school with the landscaping, making that successful, selling it, getting into the real estate business at one of the best times ever to do it. Diamonds are formed under pressure. They're a leader in their organization, so much so for at least 3 or 4 years, they were the top in all of New Jersey as it relates to sales volume for EXP. Today, they're a leader of leaders with a line, a new real estate brand that's uh, adding systems, processes, intellectual property, leadership for real estate owners and brokers and leaders smart enough to kind of get ahead of the next vision of where things are going in real estate. The one and only Brett Sikora is coming on the Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited about this.
Dude, thanks so much for having me, man. This is great.
I guess was it like one of those late nights you woke up at like 3:42 a.m. and you scribbled on a pad next to your bed a drawing of what the future of real estate was going to be? Or is it a little less dramatic with werewolves and a full moon and so on? Like what was the inspiration behind
Yeah,
a line?
maybe it was a couple beers and just walking alone while my brain was just kind of going on, some free time. I um I had come what I think is interesting for me and what really differentiates the way that we do things versus other folks is that I was actually a top producing agent on another real estate sales team. So the concept around where this all began, and we really started leaning into it over the years. This is 2015. I broke off from that team. 2016, I started the Sikora group, which in 2023 turned into Align. Um, but I'm like the anti-team, if that makes any sense. I'm like everything that the team leader claiming everything on the MLS in their name, the administrative staff there to support solely the team leader, and then you get the scraps of what's left, perhaps. When I was on other teams, I had to hire my own assistant as well. Um, they really followed the millionaire real estate model, which was written in 2008, 2009, and it has become pretty dated in my opinion. So we're more of that like servant leadership where all I want to do is make the agent's life better today than it was yesterday. And that's why we don't have atrophy issues. That's why the growth is there. And it's the same thing when you're for realtors leading with their clients, when you're leading with your client's best interest day in and day out, the business becomes pretty easy. And we found a pretty good pocket in the world of real estate to lean in on this and really make a difference in realtors' lives.
Do you remember the seventh level in KW?
Yeah.
I've asked 3 or 4 top producers recently, um, basic something to the effect of like, how often does Gary leave?
Yeah.
And it's always that like, I don't know if was that part of what you mean by outdated or like,
Yeah, well, to that point, that's a mythical seventh level beast that I've never actually seen someone really execute and exit the business while it continues to run. I don't know that many folks that have a true seven level team, but that's exactly it.
it
The
reminds me of like the end of Scientology when they had to rewrite Xenu so that people wouldn't figure out that there was like volcanoes and for like a South Park episode or something like
Yeah, 100%.
that.
Exactly. But that's it. The seventh level, I mean, the way the book is written, it's that you're the team leader. You're going to net 1 million following this system. Hence the millionaire real estate agent. Your agents on your team are there to prospect with you, kick up all listings to you as the team leader. They're there to serve your buyers. When the buyers become listings down the road, they're there to kick back up to the team leader again. And it becomes a big rat racy thing for the agents and also for the team leaders, because when you follow that model, there's a lot of atrophy within the world of agents. They leave, they outgrow it. And that's exactly what happened to me. And you know, with this, my whole goal was to really create a world that's big enough for agents and team leaders to grow wherever they want within it.
Hmm.
And so far, it's been working really well.
How much of how important do you think the actual transaction is in the building of a real estate business?
You mean can you be more
Trans
specific?
oh the I'm a realtor
Yep.
and I'm assisting a buyer in finding their home, or I'm a realtor, I'm assisting Jay here wants to sell his house. I'm assisting Jay in positioning my house on on the market and negotiating with whomever is interested in it. Like the brass tacks of, selling houses.
It is, I mean, obviously that is what generates the revenue, you know, for these whole things to go around. So I think it's super important. And that's what we look at. The realtors for us, they're our clients. And then the realtors have clients. So we're B2B in the way that like I interact with folks, but then they're B2C. And the B2C is what's really going to drive it. So what we've created with Align is it is a home where you can take a $10 million producer, a $25 million producer, and really coach and give them the system so that that growth and where they want to go next is easier for them. And not every realtor wants more money. A lot of them want more free time. They want time with family. They want something. So whatever, we really hone in on like what their why is and what's driving them and what they're looking to accomplish in the next 12 months. And if it is to sell more homes, we're going to help them build more meaningful relationships with those clients. If it is to take more free time or set better boundaries in their schedule so that they can
Hmm.
have a quieter, peaceful mind, then we're going to hold them accountable to that as well.
Yeah, what would you say are a lot of the feelings right now of the realtors, like obstacles that they face in the different markets that you're communicating with them?
I think fatigue. There's agent fatigue out there, big time. I would say that's what I see the most. And you know, it's funny. I grew up playing hockey my whole life. So there's a movie. I don't know if have you ever seen Mystery Alaska? I think it was Kurt Russell.
No.
Mystery Alaska, and it's when there's a town in Alaska where this pond hockey team plays the New Jersey Rangers for like a big event, that sort of thing. And the Rangers didn't want to play, and they didn't really want to play the Rangers, and turned into this whole thing. But I remember after the second period, they were in the locker room, and Burt Reynolds was the coach, and he goes up to again, I believe it was Kurt Russell. He goes up to him and basically gets him going, and Kurt stands up in the whole thing, and he's like, I'm not tired. I'm not beaten. He's like, and he starts yelling around the locker room. He's like, is anybody fucking tired? I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this, but is anybody effing tired? Okay, cool. And they're all just like, no, coach, just getting started, just getting started. And they're all getting fired up. So I always joke, I send that to my team all the time where I'm just like, guys, I'm not fucking tired. Like I'm so far from tired right now. And we're running our race. And I say, like, I have a 2.5 and a 3.5-year-old at home. So I'm like, I have at least until my daughter is 18 to come out swinging. And I find that too is just something where there's so much fatigue and leadership in the market right now too, where that's a breath of fresh air to be around that
Yeah.
energy. And that's like why we're doing this event tonight at Triple Play. It's like, come on, guys, we're not tired. We might be a little tired, but we're not. We can snap out of it. We can get ourselves here. So buyer agent, listing agent fatigue is a very real thing. There's a lot of stress in the market right now, from the consumer side of things, with the rates being high, things being expensive. Inflation's a very real thing. The cost of living is very high stress, even for $500,000 earners. They're feeling it. So um, it's I would say fatigue is definitely the biggest thing that I come across right now. And then the second thing is skill set. So this market, we talk about a great divide in the world of realtors, and we're finding that if you focused on your skill set and you really became like a Swiss Army knife of objection handlers and all of that, and really lead with the client being number one. A book I love having realtors read is The Go-Giver. I don't know if you ever read that one, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's like that's the mentality. It's like, how do you give, and not necessarily expect reciprocity directly from the person you're giving to, and just know that the universe is going to kind of repay you in one way or another, and appreciate it when it does come through. When something lands on your lap, you're like, oh shit, that's probably because I did that for that person without expecting anything in return. Um, we're seeing a great divide right now where some realtors are sludging through quicksand and some are having their best year ever. And skill set is definitely a big piece of that. The consumer wants a very skilled agent right now.
Yeah, what are the ones that are succeeding? What are they doing? Or what are they not doing, actually? What are they not doing?
What are the ones that are succeeding, not doing?
Yeah.
Um, when I audit agents' business, I, I I find so much wasted time throughout the day. So I would say procrastination and thinking that you're working. I posted something yesterday in 2015. This is through Tom Ferry Coaching. I did a 2014 video recap where I went through every property. I took a picture of me standing in like a corny suit with a tie on and shaved face and perfectly coiffed hair and
I
everything.
saw that on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hilarious.
so that's a perfect example. I actually brought my assistant out into the field. We drove around all day. I think I only posted 13 photos or something, whatever the reel created yesterday. But I took all of these photos. It took 5 hours. It felt like I was working, like a lot of realtors do. And the reality is, it took me 10 years to actually do anything with those. Yesterday was the first day that I posted anything about that day that I took off from making my contacts because I didn't feel like making my contacts that day. So I became busy doing something that doesn't actually earn income. And realtors do that all day. You can even see it in the comments on my Instagram and on my Facebook. They're like, I need to do this. I'm like, no, the purpose of this post was to not do this. Like this was, I mean, if you wanted
Oh,
to,
that people,
and they're
people
like, this is
thinking,
great. And I'm like, I didn't want it to be great. I wanted you to see how don't do this because this is not an income producing activity.
wow,
Ignore this stuff and go actually, love on your
maybe
client.
you can go do it with them and make calls at the same time. I don't
Yeah, I should show. I'll put them in
become,
the back seat and I'll drive them around, and they have to make calls in between. But that's a perfect example. It's like hit your contacts. Maybe you could go take 5 photos, between 3 and 4 one day a week and build it up that way. But point being is, I neglected when you and I met prospecting in Jeff Silva's office that one day. So
holy cow, was that, yeah, you came by to do, calls, right?
yeah, I brought we're a tribe of like 3 agents. It was just starting out in 2016, 2017. And
Holy moly.
so that's a perfect example too. I
Wow.
never was afraid to ask people who were more successful than me if they could help me. And Jeff did that for free. And it cost him nothing either. I just wanted to be around somebody
Wow.
better than me. And I would just ask them, can I do this? And can I bring my guys? And they're like, hell yeah. Because it made his guys call more too, because all these other guys were coming into the mix. And we had a pretty cool prospecting day. I actually did it. Let's say we did it 2 or 3 times down there. It was awesome.
When earlier on in your career, when you were reaching out to mentors for a time, what advice do you have for listeners that have a desire to do so, but for whatever reason they convince themselves out of that activity or don't know what to say, aren't sure how to approach?
Don't think about it and just do it. That's again the a lot of realtors where they get the hesitation in regards to like calling that past client that they know they should be calling, or calling that realtor that they know would be a great mentor for them. I always tell people, put the number in your phone and then get it right in front of you and like sit up, get ready, and then just hit send. Because once it's dialing, you're on. It's like it's going. The all you got to do is talk to the person on the other end at that point. And that's why I like dialers and stuff too. It just kind of puts you into the activity, and then it starts rolling. It's like you're on the roller coaster. So
Yeah, what year was that? Do you remember?
I
Was
think
it
it was
18, 17?
2017, I think. It was probably fall. I got married in 2017, and I know Dan Spitz joined me right before my wedding. It was probably fall of 2017 because I know I brought him down. He liked hammering the phones. Still does. So
And he's with you in Ohio?
he is now in Illinois, Chicago. So he's originally from
Illinois.
Chicago. This is like the power of phones and really being like a skilled salesperson. Danny is back and forth between Chicago and New Jersey. It's an easy flight to get from O'Hare to Newark. So he'll come on a listing appointment in Hoboken, and then he'll go back to Chicago and go on a listing appointment in Lincoln Park, and then he'll fly and boom, 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 boom. But he still does 25 plus million in production in New Jersey while running a $50 million team out of Chicago.
What's his secret sauce?
Our like blocking off time blocks, actually doing the work. Danny does a really good job of working efficiently with his time. When he's working, he's working. When he's not working, he's not working. And working is when you're actually prospecting for new business and following up, lead follow up, that sort of
Hmm.
thing. So yeah.
You mentioned something earlier about fatigue. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I yesterday got home at Sunday,
Yep.
or no, it was a Saturday afternoon, and I think I slept for like 20 hours, and I still haven't. It took everything in my being. I want to show up for you today, and like, there's all these meetings after, and I've thought numerous times, why not just reschedule everybody? I think I might have 15 tomorrow. I'm like getting angry at myself about this show. Like, I'm putting too much on myself. I did 71 last month. That was stupid. Why did I do that? Like, your vulnerability that yeah, I feel like I haven't slept in a year. So like maybe it's just entrepreneur fatigue. Like in times, there was recently I was shadowing an event and one of the speakers talked about it's winter and in winter, I'm curious your thoughts on this. Hot customers, they have less resources, so they're willing to invest more if they think it's going to work. So it's not a time to discount pricing. It's a time to increase pricing, but
Yeah.
focus on, and they were saying we're in winter, we're in the winter, we're in a winter time. I don't know, but I just resonated with what you said earlier myself. I'm like, yeah, I slept for 20 hours. I had a call this morning at 6 a.m. work call, and I was thinking I got today and tomorrow and Wednesday to do all these shows, and then I'm ready to, switch gears to quote unquote sales for like
Yeah.
60 days. And I'm just, why not stop all the podcasts now? Have enough anyway. And yeah, it made me think of the fatigue thing.
Yeah, but that's always been like your shtick too. Like you've always wanted to do more. Like David Finale is a good buddy of mine. He does podcasts every
Oh, I
Friday.
like him. Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't missed a lot. His daughter's wedding was this past Friday. And he still did his live podcast. I think he did it at 9 a.m. But he has not missed a live Friday, even if it's landing on Christmas, whatever. Like he'll get people on it. And
Wow.
I believe it's been over 2 years right now. And that's like his thing. It's live podcast consistency. So whatever it is, I love it. I love that I think when we first met, you had, I want to say it was more than 70 in 30 days that you wanted to be putting out. I think you were putting out a wild number of podcasts, but I don't know. I remember it being a lot.
When you were early on doing your landscaping business, did you expect to have 500 employees in that by now? And that was, you were going to be a designer of home outside decor, or did you envision something else?
So like in what my vision was with the landscaping or what my vision was in leaving the landscaping.
Like, yeah, before you left it, you're in your what, early 20s at the time and
Yeah. So
started entrepreneurship young.
what's funny is like that world. I always think about going back to it. And I always like I still drive a pickup truck. I still have the commercial backpack blower. I have like everything but a trailer and the mowers because my wife won't let me get those two things, but I'm allowed to have everything else in the garage to run a landscaping company. So I always think about going back into it because I started at 17, I was out of it by 20, late 2021. And I knew nothing. I had no goal setting. To your point, I had no vision of what I even wanted the company to be, but it was really easy to acquire clients in that business because the level of customer service, the bar was set so low. So our business cards just said on them, we will return all calls. Our ad in the newspaper, it was like little lines, just a black and white. There's no logo or there's nothing. It was just Sikora Landscaping. We will return all calls, lawn mowing, fall cleanups, and then had our phone number underneath it. And people would just call us. And I think it was $200 a month to run that little crappy ad. And that's how we acquired the majority of our customers. But like looking back at it, this is why I always say to my wife, I'd love to do it. I never door knocked all the neighbors when I was like, if my guys were mowing a lawn, I should have been going up and down the road and just even like undercutting because of the economy of scale. If I could park in a neighborhood and we're hitting, 30 homes that day with no travel time, that's, you can do some damage. And I just don't understand why a landscaper's never knocked on my door still. And I've never been cold called by a landscaper. I've never been cold called by an irrigation system. I'm actually working with the Ants Plants is the guy that does my fertilizer and lawn maintenance, or fertilizer and pesticide treatment and all that stuff. And I work with him because he does the neighbor's home. So we see the signs out front. So there's a marketing component. And then he got the other neighbor on the block. And then somehow I ended up getting targeted on Instagram and stuff too. So like I'm like, he's actually playing the game. He's creating videos and
Mm.
stuff like that. And is doing something with, exports with email addresses or something to run the ads or targeting locations. But yeah, he's got my business. He's the only one that's got my business at home, not through like word of mouth or from the people that were there when I purchased.
Mm.
So
So you get in real estate, it's right when things are going down the tubes, ultimately. Now,
yep.
is that part of your value proposition from a leadership standpoint to the current teams that you're, well, not teams, to the current brokerages that you're attracting to your platform today?
I mean, it definitely helps having been in the business for that long and having experienced that because people think that this is hard, like this is a tough market, which I saw something that 2024 was the lowest transaction count in the US in the last 30 years. And I don't know whether that's true or not. I haven't fact checked it, but I will say that it was hard in 2007, especially being 21 years old, where if a buyer didn't buy a house, the next day the house was cheaper and or something else would come on and undercut that one and you were kind of in a race to the bottom. So those 3 years we didn't really bottom out till 2010, I want to say 2011, 2010, things were pretty low then, but that was it was interesting when the economy's crashing, not like today we're throttled because of inflation. People do want to acquire homes and whatnot. Back then it was throttled because of real estate. Real estate created that issue. So,
Mm.
it was just definitely it was a difficult time. And again, I went through it in my young 20s, so I don't know if the same thing happened today, how I'd be reacting to that. But I do remember one of my, and this always stuck with me, one of my mentors at the time was Patrick Southern, who is a big Mike Ferry OG, hammers the phones, always has, 100 plus million a year in like listing only, just crushes it. He and I were meeting in 2009, and that's who got me into the Mike Ferry system. And he said, "Listen, I will take a down market over an up market any day of the week because I can navigate that in a much easier way and actually have the consumer feel it." So when you're talking about those winter months and stuff, I always talk like December. Let's go do some damage, man, because everybody else is at triple play, like screwing off and not paying attention and going to another holiday party, and then before they know it, it's January 5th, and they want to get back on the saddle. But it's like, no, this is when you can really do some damage. And for us, 2024, in that down year, we grew 250%. So,
Wow.
we're up 250% in revenue this year alone. And again, it's like the tide's going out and people are having trouble right now. But we're not. I mean, we do have some agents on our team that need a little more loving than the other ones. But like I said, there's agents that if you're getting after it and you're not just standing, next to the water cooler and worrying about where your next commission check's coming from, and you actually stick to a schedule, you can do a lot of damage, which may not result in income today, but those relationships that you can build in a tougher market, it's crazy. It's so much easier right now.
I want to make sure I understand the value proposition. So those that are focused on their clients, those
Yep.
that buy and sell, that don't want the nearly as much as the operational responsibility, but need those resources to be successful. Align is going to provide that support. So it's more operational support, technological support, culture support for those that are focused on the transaction. If those are focused on that.
Right.
Because what I was getting earlier was, or I would just want to add this. In the last handful of years, as the market was going up, 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 from my observation as a third party, real estate models were very focused on uh, recruitment it was more of a recruiting culture than a transaction culture.
Right.
Like organization to agent, not organization through agent to consumer or agent to consumer. The whole paradigm was not customer focused. It was agent focused.
Right.
And what that is done is, or I think, condition people to forget to like not remember how to work in the business of real estate. They're more in the business of business.
Yeah.
And that like the floor kind of falls out when money changes and the environment changes, there's less transactions, less flow. People are kind of sitting there with like these big teams, not really they've replaced themselves, but then didn't and they're not humble enough to go do the transaction anymore.
Right.
Like that. So I'd love to expand on that a little because I think maybe that's one of the reasons why you're succeeding at such a high level. And there's like a foreshadow for like the new models to come.
Yeah.
Maybe we could play
Well,
around with that a little bit. Like,
yeah.
yeah, if
So
real
we
estate
kind of,
agents don't sell real estate, they're not only going to be void of meaning, they're going to be void of income.
right.
And you're supporting them with the systems, the processes, the operational integrity to have that meaning, serve their customers, and have that income.
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring that up too, because I always, when I was at Keller Williams, people were always like, "Well, you have a pretty big downline at Keller Williams. How do you recruit?" And I'm like, "I don't recruit. I try to be the best version of myself in the field with the clients day in and day out. And the end result is it attracts people that want to be around me and want to be around that energy." And then with EXP, David DeVoe and I are our partner. We've recruited about, well, probably, I mean, active agents is about 1150 right now. But we've probably brought over 2,000 through the organization at one, over the last 6 years or so. Um, and again, too, like our focus was always agent development and making sure that we have like the Navy SEALs and the folks that want to play all out with the clients and stuff. So our tribe, like culturally, has always been more of that producing based agent. And I think that's what makes everybody within that umbrella. Like that's why it's easy to go to a Jeff Silva's office with people who want to hammer the phones, and we'll all do it together because we all just want to win. So um, there, you can't. I'm good at recruiting. Let's put it that way. I'm a very good recruiter. I think it's crazy to just rely on that. I think that's such a there again. There's a big atrophy issue if that's all you're focused on. If you're not actually making sure that the agents that you bring into your organization are having the best year of their lives and you're not caring about that, they're going to leave right out the back door on the other side of it too. And that's why we have a 99% retention rate within our organization as well. I told my team on a team meeting, I think 4 weeks ago, I go, guys, I could recruit to hit any goal I want to hit. But what I'm really focused on is per agent production and making sure that every single person in this organization is eating, is paying their bills, is providing their family with what they want to be doing. Like I want to make sure that none of that gets kind of swept under the rug and covered up by growth. So there's almost like two divisions in our world. There's the external bringing them in, but then there's the internal that's already here and making sure that we cultivate them and make them the best version of themselves as well.
What are some things that make sure that happens? Because I'm a believer that the culture is a consequence of customer service.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so for that, like we're running a beta test right now too, where it's more of like an up level. I think 20 folks opted into it out of the organization. So it's more of like, okay, do you want a little more accountability? Do you want to be making your calls? We'll have the assigned ponds, the call list for you to go through. Like, let's level this whole thing up. And Bill Kwong, who recently joined our team, he had 3 sphere of influence calls which he would have never called if it weren't for that beta group. And one of them, this was just, it just started like 10 days ago. And one of them was putting an offer in on a $800,000 place yesterday that we were talking about on the phone. So he's just like grateful and thankful that being in that made him make a phone call he didn't want to make anyway. And now it's an $800,000 transaction, knock on wood. I haven't found out if it got accepted not last night or not. But it's like those little things. It's not, you don't need massive change. You need a little bit of a pattern, a little bit of like, let's get moving a little more. Let's lower the bar. Let's make it easy, but let's make it consistent. I'd rather an agent hit 5 contacts a day for 5 days a week, every week of the year, versus hitting 50 in one day and then not doing anything for the next 3 days and then hitting 50 again another day. We want that muscle to really develop.
Why'd you call name it Align?
So I work with Matthew Ferry. I do a lot of mindset work with him, who is Mike Ferry's son and Tom Ferry's brother. So it's kind of a big deal. But he does a lot of the mindset training. And Thatch Wynn was on one of the masterminds 2 years ago. And he had a shirt on, and Thatch has been wearing this shirt for years, but it says grind, and then there's a slice through it. And then underneath it, it just says align. And I'm like, that's like my style. Like I get chills talking about it. That's my style. I don't want that gritty, grinding along, hammering down, forceful. Like that's not what we're about in any way, shape, or form. We're about ease and flow, consistency, mindfulness, and again, truly living like a world or a life worth living. That's so the idea with Align was we're all one. We have that oneness as an organization. There's lateral leadership. We're all in it together. Bill Kwong's calling me on a Sunday night at 7 p.m. talking through this offer, and I'm available for it. If I'm not available, I'm not going to, I have missed calls right now. This is where I am. I'm present on this, but, and if it's kid time, I'm not going to be available, and I'll text him, I'll call him back tomorrow morning. But if I'm available, I'll still hop on a call Sunday night and be like, dude, let's get this offer accepted, man. Let's roll. So we ran through the scenarios and whatnot on that, but that's what it is. It's that oneness. It's egoless. It's the lateral leadership. We're all business partners. I tell everybody, I'm like, I'm not your boss. I'm not your broker. I'm your partner. Let's go win, period. And that's really what aligning was all about.
What are some of the values?
Integrity is our biggest one. Integrity, coachability. I can't stand if somebody does the wrong thing with a client and we get a bad phone call. It actually like eats my heart up. So really having the right agents and having people who are always doing the right thing, the people that get to an open house 15 minutes, 20 minutes before it starts to set up everything, the ones that if a client comes in right at the end, they're not rushing that person because they set their schedule up appropriately so that they have a gap in case somebody comes in at the end, so they can still provide that same level of service that customer deserves as well. When we're talking about the coachability standpoint, like one of my favorite things to say is, where are you operating on a scale from 1 to 10 right now? And a lot of times people will be like, I'm at a 4, I'm at a 5, I'm at a 6. And then I'll say, great, what would you need to do in the next 90 days to get to a level 10? And then they'll start talking about it. And I'll be like, that sounds awesome. Now make it a lot easier than what you just talked about. And then they'll like kind of dumb it down. I'll be like, that's your 90-day business plan. So when you get to the end of these 90 days with this easy system that you just created for yourself that actually empowers you and makes you want to wake up in the morning, you're going to be cranking, and then you're at your new level 4, level 5. And let's figure out what the next 90 days looks like to get to the level 10. And that's like where that growth happens. But I am big on, like, with the alignment aspect of things, with the oneness, it's let's create things that don't empower me, that actually empower you. Like, let's make these goals around what is going to get you into the office, what's going to get you to pick up the phone, like, let's empower you.
Mm. Oh, coachability. How could one that's listening to this come into the awareness that they're not as coachable as they think they are?
What I hear all the time is people know how to do certain things, or will have their own way of doing things, or Like they just actually, their brain starts to chatter and then they listen to it. And turning that off is a muscle. It does take time to get to that, but just making sure that everybody understands that we're all in this together and we all feel the exact, some people might feel it less than others. People might have more anxiety issues than others. I get that. But just having the skill set and having the discipline to turn off that chatter and then move through it and understand that, the simplicity of this business is just actually having conversations with consumers. That's like really where it starts. They don't really care if that's open houses, if it's door knocking, if you're doing a pie giveaway and that makes you have to text 100 people to come to your pie giveaway event. I think phone calls are always better. I think in person's even better. But whatever it may be, sales is a contact sport. When you talk about when your podcasts are done, you have to make your sales calls later in the week. You've got to talk to people. They don't just, I haven't figured out the email marketing where like everything's dialed in and people just sign the button at the end. And I'll tell you, when I do, I might not have a sales team anymore.
Yeah, well, those people just seem to fall into the same problems as everybody else.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
You said having conversations with consumers, it's as foundational as that. Well, question is on that. Why do you think people don't keep track of their past customers?
I could tell you from my experience, like if you, again, you talk about the chatter in the brain, if you have something that, maybe a real estate transaction didn't go as smooth as you thought it should have, and you feel a little guilt around that, or you wanted their experience to be better. Like I wear a lot of, um, I'm a Cancer. That's my, that's my zodiac sign or whatever, but I wear a lot of the client's feelings and a lot of their, like, I really feel the emotion of like them going through that experience. And I could see people being like, if that wasn't a good experience or if it didn't go completely as planned, then, I'm afraid to call them and check in. Or what if like, what if it was a good experience, but then I call them and they tell me that their roof's leaking. And then you feel like, damn, I shouldn't have done this. Or the neighbor's unit sold for $100,000 less than what you sold theirs for, and they just went in as a buyer. So just, I think all those things where the mind just plays tricks on people, it's like they talk themselves out of doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
So that's it's call reluctancy. It's all of that stuff. And that's why, like, again, getting into an office, like with Jeff Silva and you hammering the phones and stuff, it's very difficult. You talk about like Atomic Habits with James Clear.
Oh,
The
yeah.
habit is just get into the room. That's all you have to do in that scenario. And there's only a matter of time before, if you're afraid of the phone, that you're gonna attempt the phone call in an atmosphere like that. So I tell people it's no coincidence that our top producers are in the office almost every day. They're not hiding behind a desk at home and watching cartoons and whatnot. They're in front of it. So the habit is really take a shower, throw a suit on, or get dressed up, be ready to go on an appointment, because if you set one, you want to be able to run out, or when you set one. So that's really all people need to be doing, and they'll hide from that.
Hmm. Um, so coachability, integrity, are there any other company values?
Those are our two core, man. That's like that's really where we live. It's just doing the right thing and don't screw people over.
Hmm.
Don't be a scumbag. There's a lot of scumbags in this business, man. There's a lot of scumbags in sales in general. So, but yeah, we just leave
How
it
do you,
mustard.
uh, create guardrails or make sure that you're not bringing those in that don't align with align?
Yeah, we've gotten really good at it. I would actually say we say no to so many people. And we can feel, you can feel by the language, the way they ask certain questions, if they're going to become an issue within the organization.
Hmm.
And don't get me wrong, we still make mistakes. We've still put the wrong people into the organization. We get rid of them quickly when we when we know that we've made a mistake. Um, Another thing I have zero tolerance for, and this is actually where I think it shows up more, is the way the agent if the agent's mistreating staff, I know they're going to be doing something else out in the field. And dude, the staff is like, that's our army, man. Those are our soldiers. They're such a good pulse on everything. You know, have such a good pulse on everything that we can really nip it in the bud like quickly if we hear of something like that. And again, agents do stupid things. Like, I get it. I know that it's a high emotion business when you're dealing with some larger commissions and stuff like that. So I understand. But we're not forging documents. We're not doing any of that shit. I've had agents get terminated from eXp Realty as well for doing shady things on the mortgage side of things. I'm like, I don't need to go down with you because you're
Wow.
trying to get a deal accepted. It's like just do the right thing. That's it. So
Mm. Mm. What do you see for 2025 as far as where the market will settle, what the opportunities are?
I think with the election we've experienced post-election, there's more consumer confidence. It's been ripping a little bit more. I think that people are very confident that the rates will drop. And what I'm hearing is not 2025 at this point. It seems like they just keep kicking the can down the road. Um, but within the next 5 years or something hopefully will change there.
People are hanging on to that.
Yeah, they really we could use a little easing of that. I've said, in my opinion, mortgages are not bad debt. I mean, they're debt, but it's not like a credit card. It's not like you're swiping a credit card to go to Greece for 3 weeks and fly first class with no money in the bank. So I really wish that consumer spending debt was more affected by rates and that mortgages were not, because it's an asset. You're holding, I don't know. So that's like kind of my 2 cents there. I would love to see that soften a little bit. But I don't know. And I do know that since November 8th, there has been more consumer confidence in the market. They were always ripping pretty much prior to that. The tri-state area is pretty sheltered from what we're seeing in the rest of the country because, through COVID, even when everybody left, we still had New York City coming to our burbs. And even New York City rebounded because people got sick of living at mom's shore house and that sort of thing and wanted to come back into, more of that urban environment. So
Hmm.
we still have an extreme lack of inventory, which is keeping sales prices up. But if prices come down in the tri-state area, then I think that's just going to lead to more transactions available because you're going to see more inventory start coming online and people are going to, want to get out of their home before it starts to dip a little more.
What are top producers looking for in a partner?
Um, in a partner, like to partner with a line.
Yeah, and because from another standpoint, could be thought decision fatigue on that standpoint, right? Like,
Yeah.
how many different places am I gonna move to, or I'm getting inundated on we've had so many top people on the show over the years, like who wouldn't want to house their revenue in a sense?
Yeah. So for us, where I see an issue for like a top producer is they're busy and they know they need to hire somebody, so they will hire somebody, but it's not the right person. And then they're not going to train that person who's not the right person because they're too busy to train that person. And then they're not going to fire that wrong person that they never trained the right way anyway, that they also hired the wrong way from the beginning. So then that creates an issue. So like one of my favorite questions is, okay, if you're going to come over to our team tomorrow, and let's say you have a team of 13 agents or, and 2 staff, whatever it may be, I'm like, who should be here tomorrow? And knowing what you know about the agents or the staff in your organization right now, would you hire them a second time? And a lot of people like identify, like that's the number one thing I see, man. These team leaders, they have all the wrong agents, they have all the wrong staff, they have no standards around what they bring into the organization. Um, their staff is underpaid, underhired, never clear on what they're supposed to be doing. So for us, we take all of that over. And like when you look at a team, and Jen Schiff's our COO, she's an absolute rock star. She's so good at this, and she's put a lot of the corporate leadership in place throughout the organization. But when you look at a team It's usually the rainmaker. Let's say they're making up 50 or 60 or 70% of the business. And then they have like 7 part-time agents that are selling 2 to 10 homes per year or something like that, that they don't actually have the time to train them either. Um, and again, these agents aren't, they probably shouldn't even really be in the business. Because I'm like a big fan of, if you can't figure it out on your own, like you kind of, what are you doing? Like it's a hard business. I get it, but you got to be able to walk before you can run. And I think there's a lot of realtors that are not even walking, that it makes me wonder how their bills are getting paid, if they are at all, or whatever that may be. But our whole thing is, okay, let's take you as a top producer. You're doing $30 million a year or whatever is happening. And let's build a real sales team around you, and let's put our staff around you. And when you do that, and then they hammer the accelerator in our system, that's when like you just have that boom, boom, boom. You just have a compounding effect where it is really easy to take market share.
In as opposed to them trying to figure it out on their own and or even hire a third party entity to help them with that. Paradoxically, if they can't hire somebody internally to get things done, why would they be able to hire someone third party to help them with those things? They end up hiring the wrong coaches or the wrong advisories or the wrong. Okay,
Yep.
so so your archetype, like one of the ideal customers of you, it would be very high level at sales. They have managed not to quit. They've been
Yep.
at it for a long time. They're not an expert in business management necessarily. They're an expert in their geographical location as far as like how real estate goes, and they're an expert at their customers, like their buyers and sellers. And so,
Yep.
if I understood what you said correctly, they might hire the less capable person to support them, also not therapists. So it's hard for them to graduate those people
Yep.
if they haven't worked out. And that kind of attracts the wrong types of mentees. And everybody is just trying to sell them on how,
Yeah.
this or that is going to fix it. But you're going to come in and cut all those costs and support them from the marketing and operational and
Yeah, we'll say like, okay, we're gonna give you a 10% override on the team members that you bring into the organization. And then they'll be like, well, I don't know. Right now I'm getting all of it. And I'm like, no, well, if we look at your actual P&L right now, you're really good at doing what you do for 30 million a year. You could actually get rid of your whole team altogether, because you spend this along with your time over on these 7 folks, and you actually lose 18% on them because you don't need these expenses for your own business.
no, it's a great point because if they were business people in the first place, they would have started their own brand. They wouldn't have just been a realtor.
Yeah, and that too is like when you look at it in like a portfolio of investment properties or something like that, nobody wants to have underperforming assets in there. And that's how you have to look at the agents, the staff, everything like that. And when you're actually generating a positive ROI on 10 investment properties, it makes it really easy to buy the 11th. And that too, when you're looking at like your staff, 2 staff members plus 8 realtors, and they're all positively affecting the organization, it becomes really easy to go get more realtors.
How much of that could be just the residue of like some of the bigger business models in the room have just monetized? How they monetize was just from agent cap, from selling products and services to agents.
Right.
Like I might not be making any money in real estate, but I might be investing my capital after tax in like classes or learning or
Yeah.
A, B, C, D, F, G. So that like the incentives of the business models drive those behaviors. Your incentive is we what's your incentive?
Well, that's kind of like too. Like a lot of people will throw tech into the mix, or they'll spend money on something to solve a problem, but they don't understand what actually goes into running the tech and having adoption through the organization of hitting that playbook on 8 cylinders. The other thing too that I always see with coaching is that too is another band-aid where people pay for coaching. They think it's going to solve all of their problems, but the reality is that 30-minute call once per week, unless you're very disciplined and have free time and actually run a schedule in the right way, you're not going to complete your homework assignments, and you're going to come back to that coaching call the next week and tell the coach you did 50% of the 100% you told him you were going to do. So there's no traction there. There's no moving that whole thing forward. And for us, we say like we're coaches, but we're with you 7 days a week. We're rolling with you. We're rolling with the agents. We have so much around them with checks and balances that It's like that constant kick in the butt, and we're not leaving it up to them to figure out what they're going to do for the next 7 days to come back to that once a week coaching call.
Would you say it's more of like a venture model than a coaching model?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. Yeah, it's
And
like
and that and that might be where the market's moving itself towards as a consequence of this needing to be, this is me saying, I think it's a market of where people actually have to be focused on the consumer
yeah,
because there is not an overwhelming amount of reactive business. We have to be proactive.
yeah,
People are like, they have to unlearn a bunch of behaviors, move into the foundational behaviors that may have either be alien to them or, just uh, they were disincentivized from doing the past. And your goal is to actually help them do those things and
yeah,
do them well because you're supporting them.
yeah. When Align first came around, a little over 2 years ago, we were more of a fractional, like director of sales operation. The idea, the concept was let's go in and get your agents to move and adopt the tech that you already have in place and whatnot. And rather than hiring somebody for $120,000 a year, again, because the team leader or the broker owner doesn't have enough time to train them, so they just throw money at them with these bonuses and stuff, but actually don't hold them accountable. They're just in there pretending to move an organization where they're actually not. Whereas we were like, okay, let's go to this brokerage and tell them we want $5,000 a month. We're going to give you 5 hours of work per week on your organization, which to the agents is going to feel like we're there 40 hours a week, but we know how to do it in the right way. And then we'll move this whole thing forward where you're paying us $60,000, but getting more traction through the organization with proper like KPIs. And then that was again where it was kind of born. And then we just realized, you know what, this is really good and we're getting really good at it. Let's just stay internal on everything and bring the people into our systems because that makes it a lot easier for us to actually run and manage their agents. So when they're joining, when they're aligning with us, they're dropping their CRMs, they're coming into Follow Up Boss. We have a whole process with our systems that's very easy for them to come in through. But yeah, we fully integrate within our tech stack with them so that they run the plays that we know work. And we have, even our data studio that it's proprietary, but it's hooked up with, I don't know, however many zaps that are going through all different, crazy Zapier account bill that's making things show up so we can really track like agent activity and make sure that, again, they're not like even looking at if they haven't logged into Follow Up Boss, which is our CRM, if they haven't logged into that for 3 days on a weekday and they're not on vacation, there's something wrong. They're going to have a lapse in income 120,
Yeah.
100 days out. So like we try to figure those things out before the agent even realizes that they're screwing off.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because that could be life or death for them.
Yeah. And they don't even, but they're always stressing when the money's not there. Like if you have six pendings, and we see this all the time, there's six pending transactions, you're feeling good as a realtor, but then you're off the accelerator, but you don't realize you're actually off the accelerator. And the reality is when you have that flow and you have that pending transaction count, it's actually easier for you to go do business because talking about the universe and whatnot, you're not coming from a place of like need to the clients. You're actually helping them because you're not reliant on the income at the other end. You don't have commission breath, you're just actually talking
It's
them
all
through.
counterintuitive.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
times where you want to let off the gas and we have to hit harder, and the times that we feel like we need to hit harder, or yeah, then
Yeah.
the commit, yeah, it's a different energy that we're putting out there.
When the waves are there, surf them, man. That's it. So
Um, what's the best way to reach out to you? I'm a real estate professional that's interested in participating in a line, want to be interviewed to see if I fit.
I
Fastest way
would
to reach out to you guys.
yeah, I tell people just DM me on Instagram. I'm on a lot. Brett.Sikora. BRETT.Sikora, Sikora. But yeah, shoot me a DM. Let's get into a conversation and kind of see. And I like to put people through like tests. Anybody watching this, but I always say to agents too, it's funny, like you talk about how do you pick people out? If they'll reach out and they want to join the team, I'll find out what time works well for them. And then I purposely say, okay, great, let's do Thursday at 3 p.m. My cell phone number is 973-590-8205. Give me a shout then. I don't send them a calendar invite and I put the call on them. And then if they're like a minute late, or a lot of times they just forget, so I'll still put it in my calendar so I know it's coming. That's it. You failed the you failed your first test, and we don't move on from that. I want organized agents. I want agents that I don't need to hold their hand through everything. And it happened with an agent too. They're just not paying. I was trying to find out what times you have available next
Mm.
week, and then they sent me times this week. They're just not like paying attention to anything, and they're going through the motions. So we
Wow.
we do
Brett,
little things like that. Yeah.
thanks for coming on the show. I'm so happy that we finally got to do this after all these years. If you're listening to this episode, I would challenge you to follow Brett on Instagram and please leave us a review in the Culture Matters podcast. And we will see you next time. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.